The wind here can top 100 miles per hour. It is one of the most brutal, storm-blasted environments on Earth. A modern human exposed would not survive 24 hours. Yet 5,000 years ago, an entire civilization thrived here. They built a village with stone beds, stone furniture, and connected them with underground tunnels. This isn't just a village, it's a subterranean fortress. Built 1,000 years before the first stones were raised at Stonehenge, 500 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. How did Stone Age farmers, with no metal tools, build an indoor city? And why did they hide it underground?
The wind screams across the Orkney Islands, off the northernmost tip of Scotland. It is a relentless horizontal assault of sea spray and ice. Gales here regularly top 100 miles per hour, a force strong enough to tear the door off a modern car. This is a land without trees. Nothing grows above a few feet. The landscape is a flat, treeless expanse of rock and grass, beaten into submission by the North Atlantic. A human exposed to this wind, soaked in freezing rain, would be in mortal danger within an hour. Yet 5,000 years ago, 1,000 years before the first stones were raised at Stonehenge, 500 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza, an entire community thrived here. They built a village so perfectly engineered for this impossible environment, it remains one of the greatest architectural marvels of the ancient world. They didn't just survive the wind, they erased it. This is the story of Skara Brae, a Stone Age village built almost entirely underground. For millennia, it was a forgotten myth, a local legend of a fairy city buried beneath the sand dunes. Then, in 1850, a storm of almost apocalyptic force ravaged the island. For days, the wind and waves tore at the land. When the storm finally passed, the local laird, William Watt, walked the coastline to inspect the damage. The wind had been so violent it had peeled the landscape. The dunes, the grass, the earth itself, all of it had been torn away, revealing what lay beneath: a network of stone walls, passages, and strange, small houses. Watt began an excavation. What he found was not a collection of primitive huts, it was a city in miniature. 8 identical houses, connected by covered tunnels. And most baffling of all, the houses were filled with furniture. Not wood furniture, but stone. Stone beds, stone dressers, stone cupboards, stone water tanks set into the floor. This discovery presented an impossible mystery. How did Neolithic farmers 5,000 years ago, with no metal tools, using only stone and bone, build a perfectly planned subterranean village complete with furniture and, as archaeologists would later discover, a sophisticated drainage system? The answer is a masterclass in Stone Age engineering born from one simple rule: if you can't block the wind, get under it. The architects of Skara Brae didn't build on the land, they built into it. But they faced a problem. You can't just dig a deep hole in a wet, sandy island. It would flood, it would collapse. So they did something ingenious. The site they chose was not virgin ground, it was a midden. A midden is a polite word for a 600-year-old pile of their own trash. A 10-foot thick, densely packed hill of discarded shells, animal bones, ash, and organic waste. This was a deliberate choice. This was not dirt, this was a building material. This ancient, compacted waste was more stable than the surrounding sand. It was dense, and most importantly, it was a phenomenal insulator. Instead of building walls, they excavated their homes out of this dense midden, like digging a cave into a man-made hill.
They lined the holes with precisely cut flagstone. The 100-mile-an-hour gales didn't hit their walls, they just passed harmlessly over the rooftops, which were likely covered in turf and whalebone. The earth and their own ancient history became their insulation, keeping the homes at a stable temperature year-round, even as the wind screamed just feet above their heads. The second problem was wood. On this treeless island, timber was more precious than gold, arriving only as driftwood. You couldn't build roofs, doors, or furniture from it. The solution? Build everything from stone. Each house is a marvel of interior design. As you enter, the layout is identical. In the center, a square stone hearth for a fire. To the right and left, 2 stone beds built into the walls, one larger than the other. And facing the entrance, a 2-shelf stone dresser. This wasn't for decoration. It's the focal point of the home. This is 5,000-year-old social psychology. Archaeologists believe this was a place of status for displaying sacred objects, carved stone balls, or the strange swirling art they carved into the walls. It was the first thing you saw. They found stone-lined tanks in the floor, which could be made waterproof with clay, likely for holding bait or preparing food. They found small chambers carved into the walls, ancient cupboards. This wasn't just shelter, this was home. But the village's true genius lies in its urban planning. The 8 houses are not separate. They are connected by a series of low, stone-roofed tunnels. This is the first indoor civilization. Imagine it. A storm is raging. The world outside is a screaming, freezing chaos. A person could leave their house, walk into the silence of the tunnel, and visit every one of their neighbors without once stepping into the lethal wind. The entire village was one single, interconnected complex, a social hub protected from the elements. This wasn't just survival. This was community. This was social engineering, ensuring no one was isolated, even in the depths of a months-long winter. And then there's the impossible technology. Flowing beneath the village is a channel, a Neolithic drain. Each house had a small drain built into its wall that fed into this main sewer system. This is the oldest known indoor plumbing in Northern Europe. 5,000 years ago, these Stone Age farmers, dressed in animal skins, had engineered a sanitation system that would be lost to history for thousands of years. This wasn't a primitive camp. This was a piece of high-tech, sustainable architecture. They used the earth for warmth, the stone for furniture, and the slope of the land for sanitation. For over 600 years, this village thrived. The Middens tell us what they ate: sheep, cattle, and an ocean of seafood. They tell us what they wore: animal hides treated with tools made of whalebone. They tell us what they created: strange carved stone balls, their purpose still unknown, and beautiful pottery, grooved ware that gives their culture its name. Families were born, lived and died in these stone rooms, their lives illuminated by the flickering light of whale oil lamps. So, what happened to them? Why was this triumph of engineering abandoned? The archaeological record shows no signs of a battle, no bodies, no weapons. The end, it seems, was not violent, but slow. The environment that they had so brilliantly tamed finally turned against them. Around 2500 BC, the climate shifted. It became colder and, crucially, wetter. The sea levels rose and the sands began to move. One house, known as House 7, tells the story. It was found perfectly preserved, its doorway sealed. Archaeologists excavating it found it just as it was left. Pottery, beads, and tools were still on the floor. It's the Pompeii of the north. It seems the inhabitants decided the fight was over. The sand, blown by the gales, was choking the tunnels and filling the houses. They packed what they could, sealed the door to their home one last time, and walked away, letting the sand bury their world. Skara Brae is more than a ruin. It is a blueprint for survival. It teaches us that technology isn't just metal or electricity. Technology is an idea. It's the what-if moment a Stone Age farmer had standing in a gale and thought, what if we didn't fight the wind? What if we just let it blow over us? They didn't just build homes, they built a solution. They used their own past, their trash, to build their future. And they built it so well that 5,000 years later, we can still walk through their tunnels, stand in their living rooms, and touch the furniture of a lost world, perfectly preserved by the sand that finally claimed it.